That night, while undressing for bed, I rediscovered the black disc I had stolen from Magister Tindixis's office weeks before. I had half forgotten about its existence, that mysterious necromantic artifact which the mage believed could resurrect a dead love. Almost by pure instinct, I found myself placing the disc on my heart and whispering Palla. A momentary chill filled my chamber. My breath hung in the air in a mist before dissipating. Frightened, I dropped the disc. It took a moment before my reason returned, and with the inescapable conclusion, the artifact could fulfill my desire. Until the early morning hours, I tried to raise my mistress from the chains of oblivion, but it was no use. I was no necromancer. I entertained thoughts of how to ask one of the magisters to help me, but I remembered how Magister Ilther had bid me to destroy it. They would expel me from the guild if I went to them and destroy the disc myself, and with it the only key to bringing my love to me. I was in my usual semi-torpid condition the next day in classes. Magister Ilther himself was lecturing on his specialty, the School of Enchantment. He was a dull speaker with a monotone voice, but suddenly it felt as if every shadow had left the room and I was in a palace of light. When most persons think of my particular science, they think of the process of invention, the infusing of charms and spells into objects, the creation of a magical blade perhaps, or a ring. But the skilled enchanter is also a catalyst. The same mind that can create something new can also provoke greater power from something old. A ring that can generate warmth for a novice on the hand of such a talent can bake a forest black. The fat man chuckled. Not that I'm advocating that. Leave that for the School of Destruction. That week, all the initiates were asked to choose a field of specialization. All were surprised when I turned my back on my old darling, the School of Illusion. It seemed ridiculous to me that I had ever entertained an affection for such superficial charms. All my intellect was now focused on the School of Enchantment, the means by which I could free the power of the disc. For months thereafter, I barely slept. A few hours a week I'd spend with Betsuniki and my statue to give myself strength and inspiration. All the rest of my time was spent with Magister Ilther or his assistants, learning everything I could about enchantment. They taught me how to taste the deepest levels of magicka within a stored object. A simple spell cast once, no matter how skillfully and no matter how spectacularly, is ephemeral of the present, what it is and no more, sighed Magister Ilther. But placed in a home, it develops an almost living energy, maturing and ripening so only its surface is touched when an unskilled hand wields it. You must consider yourself a miner, digging deeper to pull forth the very heart of gold. Every night when the laboratory was closed, I practiced what I had learned. I could feel my power grow, and with it, the power of the disc. Whispering Palla, I delved into the artifact, feeling every slight nick and mark that marked the runes and every facet of the gemstones. At times I was so close to her I felt hands touching mine. But something dark and bestial, the reality of death, I suppose, could always break across the dawning of my dream. With it came an overwhelming rotting odor, which the initiates in the chambers next to mine began to complain about. Something must have crawled into the floorboards and died, I offered lamely. Magister Ilther praised my scholarship and allowed me the use of the laboratory after hours to further my studies, yet no matter what I learned, Palla seemed scarcely closer. One night it all ended. I was swaying in a deep ecstasy, moaning her name, the disc bruising my chest, when a sudden lightning flash through the window broke my concentration. A tempest of furious rain roared over Mir Corrupt. I went to close my shutters, and I returned to my table. I found that the disc had shattered. I broke into hysterical sobs and then laughter. It was too much for my fragile mind to bear such a loss after so much time and study. The next day and the day after I spent in my bed burning with a fever. Had I not been a mage's guild with so many healers, had it not been a mage's guild, a typo, I likely would have died. As it was, I provided an excellent study for the budding young scholars. When at last I was well enough to walk, I went to visit Betaniki. She was charming as always, never once commenting on my appearance, which must have been ghastly. Finally, I gave her reason to worry when I politely but firmly declined to walk with her to the reflecting pool. "But you love looking at the statuary," she exclaimed. I felt that I owed her the truth and much more. "Dear lady, I love you more than the statuary. I love your mother. She is all I've been able to think about for months now. Ever since you and I first removed the tarp from that blessed sculpture. I don't know what you think of me now, but I have been obsessed with learning how to bring her back from the dead." Betaniki stared at me, eyes wide. Finally she spoke. "I think you need to leave now. I don't know if this is a terrible jest. Believe me, I wish it were. You see, I failed. I don't know why. It could not have been that my love wasn't strong enough, because no man has stronger love. Perhaps my skills as an enchanter are not masterful, but it wasn't from lack of study." I could feel my voice rise and knew I was beginning to rant because I could not hold back. "Perhaps the fault lay in that your mother never met me, but I think that only the caster's love is taken into account in the necromantic spell. I don't know what it was. Maybe that horrible creature, the monster that killed her, cast some sort of curse on her with its dying breath. I failed, and I don't know why." With surprising bursts of speed and strength for so small a lady, Betaniki shoved herself against me. She screamed, "Get out!" and I fled out the door. Before she slammed the door shut, I offered my pathetic apologies. "I'm so sorry, Betaniki, but consider that I wanted to bring your mother back to you. It's madness, I know, but there's only one thing that's certain in life, and that's that I love Palla." The door was nearly shut, but the girl opened it a crack to ask tremulously, "You love whom?" "Palla!" I cried to the gods. "My mother," she whispered angrily, "was named Zarlis. Palla was the monster." I stared at the closed door for Mara knows how much time, and then began the long walk back to the Mages Guild. My memory searched through the minutiae of the Tales and Talos to the Tales and Talos night so long ago when I first beheld the statue and first heard the name of my love. The Breton initiate Gellin had spoken. He was behind me. Was he recognizing the beast and not the lady? I turned the lonely bend that intersected with the outskirts of Mir Corrupt, and a large shadow rose from the ground where it had been sitting, waiting for me. "Palla, Palla, kiss me," it howled. And that brings my story up to the present moment. Love is red like blood.